Hello, I'm John, and I am going to. What am I saying? I don't even know. Okay, all right, we'll just cut that out. Okay, all right. Hello, my name is National Master John Chernoff, and I am here to talk about chess. I give a few pointers about the game and that sort of thing. I thought I'd start with a game that I played. In fact, actually, my entire series is going to be on games that I've played because, well, I played them, therefore I looked at them, and just made sense at the time. So, yeah, so here we go. Here's the first one. This is a game quite a while ago when I was, like, basically a kid and not as grotesque looking as now. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I shaved, but right back. Doesn't matter. Okay. A case. So here's how this game goes. I'm playing black, and white starts with oh, wait, I have to. All right. Oh, I just realized that that's going to be confusing because oh, I can do this. All right. Okay. Oh, whoops. All right. So, right, sorry about that. Okay. So here's a game that I played, and I was black, and the game began like so. Pawn to king 4, on e5. I'm freely mixing descriptive and algebraic for no reason, but yeah, basically, all right. So d4. This is the center game, I believe it's called, because, well, look, there's pawns in the center of the board, and it's a game. So, usually black takes. But then you get all sorts of variations that can be sometimes difficult to remember, such as these types of gambits, including the dreaded Danish gambit, where white gives up a million pawns in order to have funny-looking bishops. But in case, I wasn't that keen on going into that stuff because I don't know any of it. So I did something that very often people do, especially if they're higher rated. It's a useful psychological tool, which is good to know, especially if you're a lower rated player, that higher rated players will do this. But I played this. Now what that is sort of a bluff. It's inviting various lines of what is known as the Nimzovich defense. White can either play d5 or take, and kick the knight around. It's sort of like a Alekhine reversed or flipped or something. In any case, it's not particularly good for black. I mean, it's not terrible, but the point is that it's rather unlikely that actually it's a main opening of mine, simply because if it was, I probably would have played knight c6 on my first move. Like that. So the fact that I played e5 suggests that probably I don't want to play the Nimzovich defense. But the point is that white doesn't know that for sure, and in fact assumes that I do because, well, I just played knight c6. So it's a useful psychological ploy. White doesn't want to play an opening that he's not familiar with, or she. And I don't want to play an opening I'm not familiar with. So there are weird negotiations going on. I didn't want to take the pawn on d4 because that would have gone into lines that I wasn't really prepared for. But by doing this, it's unlikely that either of us is particularly prepared for a Nimzovich defense. Well, I mean, white should be a little bit, but... All right, so the point is that this bluff works rather well if you're the higher rated player, because the lower rated player doesn't want to get into terra incognita with the higher rated player, and also the lower rated player is probably not going to think something is a bluff when a higher rated player does it. Don't think that the higher rated player has access to occult knowledge. This is not really true, and higher rated players will get away with these bluffs a lot against lower rated players. So, yeah, something enough. In any case, this was a good case of that because white just went into a scotch. which was really more what I was hoping for. Even though the Scotch is an annoying opening that I don't do very well against, it's still more familiar. If you play e4, e5 as black, you probably should know something about what to do against the Scotch. So, in case, so we got a Scotch. It was a negotiation, and this is the result. It's kind of like Obamacare, that, but different. All right. Various moves are played. This move in particular is sort of known to be mostly harmless. Black gets the nice pawn center, but here white tries to do something fancy and sort of fails. I would say that this b3 idea very much did not work in the game for white. It didn't lose or anything, but I think it removed a lot of white's hopes for any sort of advantage out of this opening. Usually white's hopes for advantage in this opening really, to be honest, this is something that beginning players often fail to appreciate, or even intermediate players, sometimes even advanced players fail to appreciate this. But a lot of times there are certain openings where you're actually not hoping for an advantage out of the opening. You're hoping to gain an advantage in really the ensuing endgame that the opening is pointing towards. In this case, for white, an endgame would be kind of nice. It would nullify some of the danger of black's pawn center, and it would highlight the weakness of the pawn on a7. So, in some ways, an endgame, sort of something that white may well be interested in. It's not quite that easy to accomplish, and honestly, even if he did accomplish it, it wouldn't be a major advantage, but it would be something. So, I mean, a lot of times white's plan in Scotch is to bore his opponents to death. With that in mind, you really don't need to come up with fancy moves like b3 and fiend countering the bishop, because that's really more with an eye towards some sort of magic kingside attack or something. As we see in the game, it doesn't work very well because it actually neglects its development to a fairly large degree. So, all right, so castles, bishop b2, and black, or me in this case, came up with I think a very good way of improving a lot of my pieces. And, I mean, the natural thing to do would be just rote development, which, beginners tend to like to do because, how bad can it be? Sometimes it can be really bad, actually, because it doesn't really address any long-term plans, which you could start making kind of early on in chess games. Yeah. So in this case, a maneuver was undertook to exploit the rather undeveloped state of affairs over on the white queen side. So, played knight g4. A funny looking move, because this isn't really with an eye towards some sort of kingside attack. It just looks like it might be. It looks like I'm trying to do some sort of weird, incredibly naive thing where I play bishop d6 and queen h4. You sometimes see that in the Scotch because there's no white knight on f3 a lot. We went to d4 and then things happened to it. So basically, the knight on g4 looks a little funny. The point of it, though, is not about the knight. Well, it is a little bit, but it's more about the bishop on e7, which is going to come to f6 and completely render moot white's attempts at some sort of whatever white was attempting with the bishop there. So, all right, so knight g4, h3, attempting to humiliate the black knight, which, of course, if it retreated, would be kind of dumb. The black would have lost 2 tempi for no reason, so that would be bad. But the actual idea is bishop f6, hitting the bishop and the rook behind it if a trade occurred, and exploiting white's, again, somewhat retarded queenside development. So, white probably should have taken, but instead he played c3, which really makes the bishop silly. And now the black knight repositioned himself to a much better square than it was on f6. So, all told, black gained quite a bit from this maneuver. White plays bishop c2, and now after c3, knight d2, black develops his last minor piece in a very, very happy way along this diagonal. And after rook e1, knight d3, the two bishops are gained. Now, this becomes an important issue in the game. And one thing about the two bishops that I think sometimes is not stressed enough is that one of the major advantages of the two bishops is that, by definition, you have at least one bishop that is what you could call unopposed. There's no bishop to oppose it on a diagonal that it chooses to take up residence on. In this case, the unopposed bishop is the bishop on d3, a light squared bishop. And most of the rest of the game involves improving that piece or making that piece as powerful as it can be, because it has a lot of potential. An unopposed bishop is a very powerful piece, because if you think about it, it really is controlling an entire color of squares. It can wreak havoc on a board if placed properly. So this bishop is it can be an issue. In the game, it really becomes an issue. So okay, all right. So knight f3, bishop g6. Bishop g6 is not very accurate. There's no reason for black to simply not play bishop e4. I have really absolutely no idea why I didn't. It's a natural square, and if white kicks it away with like knight d2, then you go to f5 or g6, and you've gained a tempo. So I'm not sure why I put it on g6. It's kind of an odd thing to do. But sometimes the idea is simply the bishop works better from afar, but not when it's sitting right on the square like that. But okay, anyways. Whoops. Whoops. All right, so instead, the move bishop g6 was made, slightly inaccurate, and white should probably have played knight e5 immediately, hitting bishop and hitting pawn, and then it's not so clear that I would have had much of an advantage. Probably something along the lines of either probably queen c7 or something, and then maybe you just take, and black's advantage is minimal. There is some advantage, because again, this bishop is significantly better than this one. But the game went a different way. White played rook e3. Not quite sure why. My only guess is perhaps he was eyeing some sort of thing with bishop a3, and then bishop c5, and then bishop d4. Because in White's dream universe, he gets rid of the dark squared bishops, and then plays good knight against possibly questionable bishop because it's light squared, and the pawn structure at the moment is this. Even in that situation, I don't think black would be in really any trouble, but at the same time, it's something. It's a plan. So maybe that was the idea with rook e3, and also maybe you could like double in some lines. And, not sure, but there you have it. So played queen b6, and now white plays knight e5, probably hoping I would move the bishop to some silly square, which in this case might be actually e4, and then we get this very large fork happening. So that might have been the hope that white had. Or simply he was hoping to trade off bishop for knight, and then maybe with a well-timed c4, the opposite colored bishop middle game might not be that bad for him. Honestly, this doesn't look very good for white, but it's not, it's not that bad. So it's really just because this bishop is silly. But, right. Also, notice the subtle effect of moving any pawn in front of your king. Black could, if ever this pawn on c3 goes to c4, this bishop starts staring down this diagonal, black could very easily play f6 to just simply blunt it. Whereas an analogous thing is more difficult for white to do. Not only is there a pin at the moment on f2, so he couldn't play f3, but also, if he does so, he creates holes in his king side because of this pawn on h3. So it's a little bit harder for white to plug holes in his defenses. But right, be that as it may, that didn't happen because I played a move that I felt was very consistent with the underlying idea of this game, which is to improve my pieces as much as possible, regardless of material cost. Well, not totally regardless, but yeah. In any case, I just simply played this queen sacrifice of queen takes e3. Though interestingly enough, I wonder what would have happened had white simply played knight takes. Never really thought about this, but I have a queen under attack and I have a rook under attack. If I move the queen, then I go down a nothing. Actually, I go down nothing. If I would just move the queen and then takes, and yeah, actually this would be absolutely fine for me. So this is silly, but I mean white could have done it. Of course white didn't do that, he took the queen. And then after bishop takes knight, we have a position where my bishops are fantastically well placed. This bishop is pointing a lot of directions, it's pinning this pawn, making this bishop silly. This bishop is clearly going to come to e4, where again it's unopposed and can attack a lot of things at once. Or in the case of the game, really just g2 is enough. Alright. White comes up with an interesting defense. Queen d2, rook d8 to activate my rooks so that I can participate in the coming attack. Bishop a3, quite a good move. Rook e8 and bishop c5. So white has managed to develop his bishop outside of his pawn chain, which is really important. However, notice that there are some inconveniences here. This bishop on over here on the queen side is going to have trouble communicating with the king side in any meaningful way because of this pawn on e3, which blocks him in many ways. That pawn is also inconvenient because it blocks the rook from being able to create open files and so forth and so on. So it's somewhat of a liability, this pawn on e3 in a lot of cases. Be that as it may, this bishop is attacking a pawn here and then threatening the very, very straightforward idea of simply winning a pawn. So, bishop b6 to defend that pawn, rook d1, bishop e4, and that bishop has assumed its rightful spot. c4, very good idea. White wants to activate his queen towards the queen side where there are vulnerable points, because the queen, that's what the queen's good at, is attacking a lot of weak things at once. So c4 makes a lot of sense. Rook e6 to activate my rook. Queen a5, again attacking various points at once. And now black just goes for broke. Rook e8. One wonders whether or not rook d8 in the first place was a good idea, simply because I had to move the rook again, but let's just not think about that. Alright, takes. Rook g6, threatening the obvious. Rook d2, defending, albeit in a somewhat awkward fashion. Bishop g3, and black's pieces are all more or less participating in this attack. And that alone is probably worth the material outlay, though it has become quite considerable. A queen and pawn for rook and bishop. So, bishop b6, for reasons that are completely eluding me. In fact, that move just loses because bishop e1, and now white will be helpless. So white probably needed to simply just move this rook somewhere, although it's actually rather awkward to find a square, perhaps here. And then play probably would have continued in some way, shape, or form. It's actually a good question. So what would black do here? There are a lot of possibilities. One is to try and, well, okay, I mean, you could try this, but that opens a file for your opponent, and unfortunately this blocks the path towards the 8th rank, so that doesn't work very well. Perhaps just a move like this, but then you're exposing your own king, and I'm not sure where the pawn goes next. Going here simply eases white's defense to some degree, I think. So maybe you just go here, but then bishop d4. So that's not a good idea. Man, I should have thought of this at more. maybe I would just go here and then continue with whatever the plan was. Here, maybe at this point, say white here or something, then maybe I just start putting all the rooks together. Sort of a Humpty Dumpty type of thing. It's actually not that easy to play either side here. But say I went here. Just actually, not sure what I'm trying to do with it, but all right, okay. So say here, then say something like this. I don't know. Here. Oh, and then I hang my rook. Yeah. Well, anyhow, yeah, that. So it's kind of, it was helpful that my opponent, instead of allowing himself to possibly win the game, instead pinned his own rook in this way, after which it was actually a very easy attack. The rooks just kind of won the game by themselves with the help of the incredibly powerful bishop on e4. So that game was a demonstration of the power of well-placed pieces, although when I look at it a little bit more closely, had white not blundered, it might have been a demonstration in the power of not going crazy with the black pieces. Yeah. Oh well. So there you have it. That was a game I played, and that happened in it. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll maybe see you guys again some other game. Yeah. Okay. Bye.